This footage is wild. I don't think I've seen anything like this in the war before. And I don't say that lightly. And it's absolutely bizarre. So what I'm about to show you appears to be the Ukrainian armed forces attaching thermite to a drone. And then it takes that thermite to an enemy military position and proceeds to spray it like a fire hose, like a dragon would. I shit you not, straight on the tree line. And then after it does that, after it starts spraying, it doesn't like spray in one spot. Like if you dropped a single grenade, which often happens. It's part of the reason why grenade dropping drones, like the normal ones, like the Mavics that drop a single grenade, like the normal ones, they barely get anybody. They injure like a few people. A lot of it is really suppression tactics, making sure that your enemy can't peek out and snipe every few seconds, and your enemy's scared to move around and wants to leave. Like that's what I think most of the grenade dropping from those Mavics do. It takes very few people out. The Baba Yaga drones and the vampire drones and the bigger agricultural drones that have been retrofitted, on the other hand, that can drop like multiple, maybe like 2.5 kilogram bombs, or even I've seen 8 kilogram bombs. That's a little different. But this right here isn't dropping in one spot. It's spraying almost like a laser beam, and you can see it here already. It looks wild, but all I can do is show you this. Who did this? Does it say who did this? Okay, yes, here it is. The Ukrainian military-focused media outlet Defense Express wrote that the drone had been deployed by Ukraine's 108th Territorial Defense Brigade, adding that the video was taken to the village of Ukrainsky in the Zaporizhia Oblast. Now, this is the thing, okay? When we talk about Ukrainian drone development, before we watch this video, the Russians have the advantage of centralization. They can pump out a bunch of drones very quickly. They're not very good quality drones. They're drones that are easier to jam on record, and so a lot of Russians, the units will get the government issued drones, and they'll prefer the ones that they get from private donors who actually care to make sure it has everything so it can be most effective. And they'll take the Russian government ones and they'll retrofit them if they have the money and resources to do, which often, depending on the unit, they do not. The more popular units a lot of times do, and a lot of these conscripts in Kursk do not, and so they're stuck with the government stuff, and they're not popular veterans, and there's not enough stuff to go around, and the government is certainly not going to give their best drone stuff to a conscript of 19 years of age, conscriptovich, who just got a drone in his hand for the first time. While they have a lot of drones they can produce, the Ukrainians, the research is very centralized too, and that has advantage to it. But when you're decentralized and you have a bunch of little projects experimenting and a bunch of little drone NGOs made by just like a few friends together, like experimenting all the time, you do get innovation and you get a defense. Because if the military units are being supplied by 3-4 people in a bunch of different apartment blocks or a bunch of different places randomly in random different places, it doesn't really justify using like extremely millions of dollar military equipment to hit this apartment block. And it also, if you talk about proportional response, it probably would not apply. Definitely when you're considering that we're talking about $10,000 to $20,000 projects, and how many civilians it would end up causing. And so when you have all these different people experimenting with different units and experimenting with different technology, and not only are they spread out and they have a defense, but they also have more opportunities for innovation. But that it also means, though, that until these consolidate more, and they are continuing to consolidate, the bigger projects, the research projects that would take a lot of money to research and make huge strides in, definitely when it comes to things like AI targeting, it would be better if they had more centralized resources. And so while on one hand, we see the consolidation of Ukraine's NGOs into like smaller, like these drone companies buying up everything else, taking up everything else, because there just isn't enough capital to go around anymore. Well, on one hand, it's bad because we're losing that flexibility in innovation. We're losing the flexibility when it comes to, donations and all these like drone volunteer groups. But on the other hand, it would mean that these drone manufacturers also have more capital at their disposal for research and development projects. And so that's going to have its advantage too. But I have a weird sneaking suspicion. I did the whole rant because that this right here is the result of Ukraine's, at least this is my theory, it's pure speculation, partially the result of Ukraine's decentralized innovation system when it comes to drone development, allows them to experiment with a lot of wacky stuff. So the Russians experiment too, but I am of the belief, and I'm not the only person, that the Ukrainians have always had a little bit of an edge when it comes to the drone stuff. I mean, that's where they've delivered Russians some of the most devastating losses of the war when they attack places like Volodar, which they're attacking again today, and I think we probably should talk about. But let's watch the video. Can we zoom in? 1 second. Actually, can I open this in a new tab? No, I cannot, so we'll just zoom in like this. Look at this. Look at that. Oh my goodness. It's like a flamethrower from the sky. Look, it's going along basically the entire tree line. Look at that. Look how much ground it's covering. My God, dude, this is like a wizard spell. That's what I just want. I mean, I know that sounds silly, but this is like fire beam. It's very strange to see. Number one, because I'm wondering, as the number one, well, I know what he's tried this before. Maybe it's just, you know, it was never cost effective. Like doing this with a plane, obviously the plane is high value. Doing like this type of thing that close up, you could lose it. Whereas like a $300, $400 drone, I guess, is less cost effective, and you could maybe burn them out of the position, because the problem is not just going to be the singular explosion. A lot of explosions create secondary explosions, and if you see a secondary explosion, that's a good indicator that it wasn't a decoy. And that's one of the first things you should look at when you see strikes and somebody says, oh, this vehicle or that vehicle is destroyed. If it's parked somewhere in the woods and it doesn't have a secondary explosion and something like a missile launcher or, you know, artillery stuff, maybe they stored the ammunition elsewhere, but a lot of times that's suspicion that, you know, that it actually was a fake. It was a decoy to try to divert resources. But in a lot of these drones, you know, just drop a single grenade, a single stuff, and you can cause fires through secondary explosions or you hit the right thing. But this is a beam of fire. Even if you try to just fill your trench with nothing flammable, this thing just hits your clothes. This stuff hits the camouflage netting, which is everywhere. And everybody uses it, and it's attached to all your military vehicles. The rubber on tires, if you have anything that has tires on it, whether it be an artillery piece, a truck, etc., or just the trench itself, which is of course going to be usually made of wood from trees cut down locally. Well, technically stolen from Ukraine, stolen from the local environment. And so this is almost, I remember reading reports of what the gas attacks that the Russians were doing, and then we heard reports of possibly the Ukrainians doing back and forth. It caused a lot of panic and then allowed them to hit the Russians, or hit the in the instances I was reading, hit the Ukrainians as they fled out of the trench. This is so terrifying. The idea of this causing like panic in units and causing them, especially if the new conscripts who have never seen something like this before. Hell, I've been watching this war for a bit and I haven't seen something exactly like this before. I mean, just the fear factor alone, which is a lot of what the chemical weapons effect really was when it comes to like trying to cause breakthroughs or trying to get units to abandoned positions, and then hitting them with artillery, hitting them with grenade droppings, drones, you know, vampire drones, Baba Yaga drones. That's what they were doing with that. I could see that effect from this, but also, I mean, like burning an enemy trench line and making it hard to live in, and catching their equipment on fire has its own benefit, and of course catching enemy troops on fire, as horrific as it is, has its own benefit too. I don't know if they're going to do this. I don't know how effective this is or how much they're going to weigh, like cost effective when it comes to using thermite when it could be used for other things, how beneficial it was. But don't be surprised if maybe you see some other videos of people experimenting with this, maybe continuously with this territorial defense unit, which I believe was the 108th, but maybe even from other units. Because, I mean, if it works, there's no reason why it wouldn't start to spread. Now, a lot of units have different protocols and they'll use different weapons, and, you know, they'll jerry-rig different weapons. So this could just be something that only the 108th does. But I've seen things spread around before. So depending on how effective it is, there's something to look out for. Dylan, there are already more videos of the thermite drone. Oh my goodness. Let me look this up. You mean of the same thermite drone or different thermite drones? Oh my gosh. Holy crap, you're right. Oh, and I film with these guys. I know these guys. These are the 42nd. I filmed with these guys in Kupiansk. Wait, no, was it Kupiansk? No, it was Volchansk, I think. The Volchansk axis. Yeah, I remember. I filmed with their artillery teams. I filmed with their air defense teams. I filmed with their frontline guys, some of their people digging trenches and stuff. Frontline air defense, some of the Dushka. Yeah. Their press guy was very, very helpful. I do want to give credit to the press officer of the 42nd. But yeah, it looks like they're doing it too. I don't know if this is on the Volchansk axis, but that's where I last saw them, so it wouldn't surprise me. But my gosh, yeah, no, this is another instance of this. This is a second documented instance. Which, and it's in the second, and it's in a different unit. The last one was in 108th Territorial. This is the 42nd Mechanized Brigade. It is mechanized, yeah? Yes, it is mechanized. My goodness. And there's no music. I don't know if they didn't add music for this, but that's great. Okay, I'm very happy. Either they should have banger music, which almost is never the case, okay? It's always some screeching like dubstep, or yeah, I don't know, like they have, this is a great if these videos are seen by millions of people, crazily enough, you would think they would like choose like Ukrainian folk music, and sometimes it's Ukrainian artists, but it's just like stuff, I don't know, a lot of dubstep. So this is wild. I cannot, wow, and this is pretty close to each other, and this is against separated by 2 different units. So it seems that multiple teams are testing this. And if you find like a weak spot, like where there's camouflage landing or it's like the entrance to a trench, I don't know if there'd really be anything stopping you from just hovering the drone in that one spot if you really needed to take it out and just hammering that one thing with thermite. And if they've made like, you know, made it out of wood or something, that, whoa, it exploded at the end. I mean, that makes sense.
Burns is immoral.
I wonder if that's going to be like standard for these, or if there's any way to recover them. But I mean, come on. Like, if the FPV drone, $300, $400, being able to do this for $300, $400, as long as you can have some effect, if you can scare them out of the position, if you can burn their equipment, which, I mean, if you just take out a power generator, you've technically been cost effective, because one of those big battery things costs like $2,000. You want a really good one. You burn one of those, you burn some uniforms, burn some guns, it's already cost effective. You don't even need to kill anybody, and the defense economics of it makes sense. Yeah, so, I mean, look out for more. I mean, I told you to look out for more, and I guess this is why I told you to look out for more. Immediately we get more. For the 42nd. That's a Ukrainian dragon. This is the closest we have gotten to dragons on the battlefield. Now they just need, oh my god. And if they make bigger drones that are retrievable, they just load it with even more thermite, make the beams more and more powerful. Like if they took the agricultural drones that they use to drop mines and hook them up with a bunch of thermite to really just try to burn down the entire tree line instead of just burning down lines in the tree. I wonder, I'm not a engineer, so I'm certainly not somebody who's worked on these types of drones in that way before. So I'm only thinking, I'm only imagining, speculating, but it makes me wonder. We are here and we are debatably queer, debatably in how so? Who's debating it? Who's having this debate?